All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case over on Rumble. Of course, I do see a bunch of people waiting for the stream there, and chat is working. We have Cam24, 25IA, Morning Plankton, Ren Optic, Wake Up, thank you. Mike White 81, I didn't smoke it. And Jajunk says, good morning. Let's make sure that it actually loads there. Come on, you know you want to. Press that little live button. See what happens. I'm assuming we're live. I think we're live. Yes, indeed, we're live over on Rumble. So we've got a lot to cover today. We got some new polling in. Actually polling for both the 2024 Republican nomination and for the general election. Those are remaining roughly static, but that's still an important story because at some point, if nobody rises up to really challenge Trump, he's got the nomination in the bag. If the polling in the general election remains roughly the same, I would favor him to win. I think that shenanigans aside, it might not actually be enough. And I'll give my reasons for that. There are a number of reasons you will see. Also, we'll talk about the UFO bullshit. Congressman has grim take after access to UFO footage. We can't handle it. This is from Tim Burchett, actually. More of a distraction for the proles that are constantly fantasizing about UFO coming down and taking them away from the turd world, but that's not actually going to happen. We'll get into that and my thoughts on extraterrestrial life, which some of you are familiar with. Also, the FBI has come out with the most epic cope that you could possibly imagine in regards to its censorship of U.S. citizens through third parties in big tech. You're not going to believe it. If you haven't seen this story already, there is a link in the description, but please don't read that until I reiterate it a little bit because I'm probably going to burst out fucking laughing. It's it's one for the legend books. We'll also be talking about other shit. Christie's gone off the deep end. He's become a Yo Little Donnie poster, so he's taken off where Perlman left off a couple of days ago when he fled for Meta's Threads. And then we have the Maybelline ad, of course, and some astroturfing for Joe Biden, and also Twitter derangement syndrome in general. The FBI story is definitely the funniest, but I had to put in a couple of other stories ahead of that just for deeper analysis, because the FBI story is mostly funny for its massive cope. Everyone can see through it. Even FBI simps like a fucking bootlicker could see through the FBI's cope with regards to censoring law-abiding U.S. citizens and their political opinions. But there will still be people who simp for them anyway. They'll still do that. We're going to see what we can get to today. Lots and lots of news. I try to keep it to 7 news stories because I noticed that roughly coincides with the amount of, like if you do too much more than that, you're scraping the bottom of the barrel. And if you do too few, then, you can spend more time analyzing things, but I like to be terse. I like to be relatively pithy in my analysis. And so it just doesn't work if I add, too few news stories, because then I sit there ranting the whole time. It's fine to rant once in a while, but I don't want to do that for the entire stream. Titus Flavius Vespasianus, I will die on no one. I've accepted this L. Well, then you can always improve your life. I don't know if that is a reference to Vespasianus himself, or if it's a personal reference. Anyway, we'll get right to the first news story. We've got a couple of new polls actually out with regards to the Republican nomination battle. Morning Consult. Donald Trump is at 56 points. Ron DeSantis is at 17. Nobody else really registers a pulse. I mean, we'll throw in Pence. Pence is at 7. Nobody else has a pulse. Christie, by the way, moving up the pack. He's now almost at 3 points within the polling aggregate. He's very relevant, as he will tell you on every occasion that he actually gets a chance to speak at all. YouGov says that Trump is at 48 and DeSantis is at 22. So Trump plus 26. That's a little bit better for DeSantis overall. The overall aggregated score, Trump is ahead by more than 32 fucking points. And this is a packed field. This is a field with, what is it now, 10 or 11 people in it. Joe Biden has a little bit larger a lead in a field where there are literally 2 other people. I would like to point out that this is a major, major win for Donald Trump. the fact that he's maintaining this lead, roughly, again, around 52, 53, 54, somewhere around there, which is beyond the margin of necessity for victory anyway in a packed field by a significant margin, basically ensures that he will be the Republican nominee. I can't imagine that the upcoming debates, both informal and formal, are going to change that. I don't think that they'll do anything. If anything, someone gains a couple points, someone loses a couple points. I think Bulldog Christie, ironically, is the wild card for the lower end contenders. So Donald Trump is not going to show up for anything other than maybe the formal debates. I do hope that he chooses to join the official Republican Party debates. I do hope that. It would be a good spectacle. He'll suck the oxygen out of the room for the other candidates. I'd like to see him spar with Christie and others. That would be amusing. And I mean, I would pull up an all-nighter. I'd go out in the goddamn shed and set my fucking computer up out there just to be able to live react at that point. I would move the Wi-Fi router out to the fucking shed just to be able to do that. It'd be glorious. I hope that he does so. Whether or not he does is touch and go. It's more up in the air. You've got other candidates who are effectively refusing to support the GOP nominee, if and only if it's evil orange man, like Christie has basically pledged to. And that would be funny. Christie, I think, in a vacuum, though, is going to pound the other candidates because he is more rhetorically skilled than any of the other people down in the field, other than maybe DeSantis. And that would be hilarious. And by the way, this could destroy Christie. If Trump does not show up for the debates, Christie may be reduced to whining about Trump in a stage where he's not present. That doesn't look good, number one, and other candidates will attack him, number two, notably Ramaswamy, and seeing them get into it would be legendary. We'll see what exactly happens, but it'd be amusing. At this point, Trump is effectively untouchable within the GOP nomination race. Nobody else has come anywhere close. At his finest hour, while Trump was at his lowest point, which was months ago, DeSantis had a couple of polls that showed him up by a point. Excuse me. My apologies. A couple of polls that showed him up by maybe a point or two. And that's really his finest hour, but he's sloughed off since then. He's gone back literally to where he was moons and moons before, long before he announced, back in the battle days for him, really, when he was being considered as a possible candidate, but there were really no utterances of him actually joining in at all. And so I can't imagine that anyone unseats Donald Trump. I think that Trump will be the nominee. To the general election, I would like to point out something interesting. Donald Trump right now is effectively in a dead heat with Joe Biden in a head-to-head matchup, and Joe Biden is the likely opponent. Against Kamala, he, DeSantis, and literally anyone else wins. If Gavin were to come in, like, say, Biden croaks tomorrow, that might be more of a problem, and it's possible they're going to do the old switcheroo. Overall, though, ultimately, it's likely to be Joe Biden 2024. That's likely to be the Dem campaign. He doesn't enthuse anyone. He's mismanaging the economy. I see warning signs based on European projections, actually, that inflation is going to come roaring back, year over year, inflation is going to begin to rise because it's not going anywhere in the United States. It's just that the year over year number seems less because people are pretending that it's a month over month metric. That's going to disappear, I think, next year. And that becomes a problem for Joe Biden. That's number one. Gas prices at any given point could surge. The war could get out of control. That's number three. There's a laundry list of things that can go wrong within the Biden admin for which he would effectively take the blame in the end. And I think that Biden's going to have a real tough time, no matter who the GOP nominee is. Trump is the one that is time tested. I would point this out, and this is something DeSantis fans are not acknowledging. Joe Biden in 2020 was effectively untested. He had been VP, he had been a senator, but he had never been in the presidency. People had not gotten a chance to make up their minds about his presidential chops. Now they have. He's an incumbent. With Donald Trump, people are judging him based on his incumbent standing from the 2016 period. They have an actual record to judge. What it's going to come down to between Trump v. Biden is the 2016 to 2020 period of Trump versus the Biden period. If the Biden period is worse, Trump prevails. If the Biden period is better, then Biden prevails. So far, it seems like the Trump period, at least the first 3.5 years, are demonstrably better, and a lot of people agree with that. I would also point out with independent voters, this is a big DeSantis talking point. Well, DeSantis does better with independent voters. That's because fewer of them know who he is. Yes, if you're matching up the Biden admin with its 10, 15-point deficit against generic Republican, of course, the Republican is going to tend to win out. But once they understand DeSantis' platform has veered off way off into moralistic far-right la-la land, that will be different. But they're not researching his platform right now. It's too far out from the election. This is called the Kasich effect. This happened in 2016. John Kasich matched up better against Hillary Clinton for months than any other candidate, better than Cruz, better than Rubio, better than Trump. And this was his only major selling point. This was basically his platform. Ron DeSantis fans are making the same mistake that John Kasich made in 2016's election. That's my opinion. I can't imagine that Ron DeSantis is actually going to be the Republican nominee. And if he is, he will lose, because he has already alienated too much of MAGA to be able to carry the general election. He's also gone too far out right on certain moral issues. He'd have to snap back very, very transparently. That won't work. That might have worked 20 years ago. It doesn't work anymore. You have to be able to maintain your footing. You can nudge yourself a little bit left or right during an election. That's perfectly fine. But you have to stick to your guns. Donald Trump has set up a platform that he's capable of sticking to. Reform Section 230. Well, there's nothing weird about that. Building more walls, securing the border. That's not a strange position to take on that particular issue. Hell, the Democrats fucking run on it at this point, et cetera, et cetera. Ron DeSantis, meanwhile, is setting himself up to run on a Floridian record, which is no longer capable of being extrapolated to many of the swing states. Florida has gone more red. Florida is no longer representative of the 50-50 state that it was 10, 20 years ago. And that really is the problem with the DeSantis campaign. That and making various mistakes logistically. Christina, I sent you a DM on Twitter. Hope you have a wonderful day. Clank. I'll take a look at it later. Let's see. Misael Fraga, under what Roman emperor would you have chosen to live? Julian the Apostate, of course. Jim Morrison. Is or was Ruta for increasing diversity and enrichment, or was he trying to slow the importation of pilgrims? Both, I think. That depended on what was politically convenient at the time. David Walk, Manchin and RFK, either on a third party. Who would it hurt more? With Manchin, it would hurt Biden more. With RFK, it would arguably hurt Trump more. Now, but I don't think either of them is going to run third party. I think the third partyist will be Cornel West and possibly some no-labeler. They'll probably try to wine and dine RFK Jr. when he inevitably loses to Biden, unless Biden croaks or something. I don't think they'll be successful. They'll have some other candidate. Some also ran. The Patriot Cairo. The left relies on ignorance to make their case. Of course they do. Then again, so do most politicians. Mark Guidetti, Deep State DeSantis' new nickname must be Lil Ronnie Warpig. Let's see here. Also got to check Rumble. I really need a fucking second screen here. Trip Boom, damn it, we want 8 news stories, even numbers only. Lol. No, I got to keep it to 7. And yes, as far as the general goes, here's another point, and people are overlooking it. Donald Trump was never ahead at any point in the aggregate against Hillary Clinton. He was barely an inch above Joe Biden sporadically in 2020. Most of the time he came from behind. In the current election cycle, despite his supposedly tarnished reputation, he's doomed, he can't flip it with independents, etc. Donald Trump has run slightly ahead of Biden much of the time, and at all other times, it's basically a dead heat. I think that Donald Trump can legitimately win the 2024 election if nominated. I think he has that chance. I think the ultimate American story is to nominate someone who basically is like throwing a grenade into the establishment. The individual falls by the wayside. they're on the ground hurt, and then they pick themselves up and they fucking go right back into the fight. It would be the ultimate American story. It would be Grover Cleveland 2.0 politically, and it would be the wonder of the modern age as far as political history goes if the American people elect Trump again. And I think that there are a lot of people who in secret may say that they're not really fans of Trump, but they would like to see that sort of chaos happen, because it would be chaos. The deep state would have a meltdown. The leftoids would have a meltdown. We've seen what they will do. They will riot. They will burn cars and stuff. And the hypocrisy will continue. And it'll be funny. It will be amusing. T2AV. Aliens are real. I seen them. Took my dad back in 2004. Yes, we might as well talk about that now. Again, Congressman has grim take after access to UFO footage. We can't handle it. Representative Tim Burchett, who sits on the House Oversight Committee involved in UFO hearings, says he was shown classified footage that hasn't been released to the public. Of course, since it hasn't been released to the public, how do we establish that it is even real and that he's not talking out of his fucking asshole? Well, you can't. A Tennessee lawmaker issued a dire warning after claiming to have seen classified UFO footage that wasn't released to the public. Representative Tim Burchett, R. Tennessee, speculated extraterrestrial life forms could have technology that humanity can't handle during an appearance on the Event Horizon podcast. If they're out there, they're out there. And if they have this kind of technology, then they could turn us into a charcoal briquette, Burchett said. But why would they bother doing so? Here's my take. I've got multiple takes. First and foremost, there is alien life out there. Yes, including alien life that is more technologically sophisticated than mankind. Mathematically speaking, looking at the vastness of the galaxy alone, let alone the fucking multiverse, it does exist. It's quite clearly out there. The odds are infinitesimally small that there isn't advanced life out there. I choose to believe that as far as life exists at all, it tends to follow an evolutionary pattern, and therefore it advances. It advances towards a state in which intelligence can arise, and in which self-awareness can arise, and then thereafter follows technology. I would say there's a good chance that in this galaxy, there are thousands of planets that are inhabited by life forms at least as advanced as us. And that might be an understatement. Here's the problem. Most of them are fairly remote. In many cases, they would not have an interest in exploring our planet because it would be considered a backwater. If they're capable of traveling interstellar space, well, we're kind of interesting. We can put satellites up and stuff like that, but really we're hominids to them. We're circus animals. They might study us from afar, but they might have a scientific rigor similar to ours and realize that they're not supposed to interact with that which they're studying. So they take precautions. Our world is probably poisonous to most extraterrestrial species. If they followed a similar pattern of evolution, the kind of pathogens that are in Earth, on Earth, or even relatively remote from Earth. You know, an asteroid hits Earth, explosion happens, a volcanic explosion, a nuclear explosion, sending up a plume of ash and so forth into space. It could be laced with pathogens. If they happen to know that there's life here, they will know that there's pathogens here, and they probably seek to avoid it at all costs. Probably hose down their fucking ships if they get within 10 trillion miles of us. That would be the smart thing to do. I would note even in the primitive stage of research into space by the United States specifically, when we put astronauts on the moon, when they touched back down, what did we do? We put the whole capsule in containment along with its crew for an extended period of time to make sure, hey, there's no pathogens here. We're not going to get killed because we went to the moon. I would assume that that would be small potatoes compared to what an alien life form with more sophistication would do. They don't want their entire civilization wiped out by a contagious agent. I do not believe that UFOs interact with the Earth, at least in the observable sense. If he's saying, well, I saw footage of strange things up in the sky. Okay, it's a UFO. It's an unidentified flying object. That does not mean that it's extraterrestrial. It could have been an interesting drone. It could have been some sort of spacecraft. It could have been some sort of airplane or a helicopter. You can see a rock flying through the air from outer space, and it's a UFO if you don't know what it is. A comet can be a UFO to someone that can't quantify it as a comet. And so I think that there's definitely life out there. It may attempt to communicate with us. It probably would prefer to do so at a distance if it's smart. Why would you want to come to a planet with warlike ape creatures that blow each other up by the millions at the drop of the hat? Why on earth would you even bother? and we probably don't have any particularly unique resources that any alien species would need, since they can always go to uninhabited planets and simply form a colony and mine for them themselves. If we found an alien planet, would we endeavor to invade that alien planet in order to gain, I don't know, gold or platinum or something? If we found it on an uninhabited planet, half a star system away? No, we'd go to the uninhabited one. It's cheaper, it's safer, it's more ethical, assuming that aliens have a sense of ethics. It makes more sense in every possible way, shape, and form. We are effectively nothing more than less hairy hominids. We are a species of creatures that are driven by our sex drive primarily and our drive to survive, and that's basically it. Let's see here. I already read that one. You can't get a freebie. Timothy Finch, SAG just striked, hoping Hollywood finally dies. Yeah, hopefully. That'd be great. No more Indiana Jones knockoff movies? Yeah, that could be beneficial. Sparky, Sticks, there's a good chance that you'll meet space aliens because when they tell clankers, take me to your leader, they'll take them to you. That would be funny. I tell them, what the fuck do you want me for? What do you expect me to tell you? Can I have a laser gun? That'd be kind of cool. If aliens come down, I'll just ask them for a plasma rifle. There's some ideas of how that could be useful. Ryan McDonald, USA. Is Nick Fuentes appearing on Cultural Podcasts doing any good for racial conversations, or is this just throwing gasoline on fire? Mostly it's just throwing gasoline on fire. I like some of Nick's commentary, but I don't even know what he's doing at this point. I just have no clue. I'm not even sure, my dude. Or dudette. I don't want to assume your pronouns. You know, the leftoids tell me I can get banned for that, so my apologies. Wasted Bonehead. I recommend Anton's Biltong. Anyways, I think I'll cut the stream a little short. That's about all. Peace out. The Grizzly 617. Did you see Timcast's stream last night where the Gays Against Groomers organization committed Sudoku by screeching TDS nonsense? Tim was trying to boost them and they belly flopped on the sword of TDS. How very, very sad. I didn't get a chance to see that, actually. I did see that one chick on there claim that Ron DeSantis was the savior, basically, and she had a confusing take. It's on my timeline. I can't remember exactly what she said, but arguing basically that Trump convinced people that were more inclined to vote for DeSantis to vote for him through lies or something, and Tim confronted her, and she had no response to that. King of Biltong, good morning from Antons in Roanoke, Texas. Free shipping on your Biltong using code STICKS, #ClankNation. Yes, if you use code STICKS, you can get free shipping on your fucking meat. And meat is a good thing. I'm going to be making stuffed shells later, so it's vegetarian, but the other day we had scalloped potatoes with loads and loads of fucking bacon. Viking Woman 1988, clank, clank, clank. Javine, aliens equals demons. Subverting religion is their goal. Yeah, but they're not coming to this planet, so they're pretty shitty demons. The Patriot Cairo, woke WD, we have problem explaining 400 genders to aliens. Yeah, it would be funny. It'd be funny. The aliens come down and the first person they meet is like a Tumblr editor or something like that. They've got Instagram, and the aliens immediately leave because they say, well, there's no intelligent life on the planet anyway, so, fuck these people. Sparky, undoubtedly, the space aliens are after Clank Nation's recurved bow and stirrup technology. USAF Bull, retired. Great show as usual. I have family in Vermont. Some got stranded by the flooding. Perhaps Bernie can save them by saying everything is free. Free ice cream. Free bridges. We're going to build them. I mean, it's a taxpayer expense, but it's free at the point of delivery. That's totally fine. Socialism for all. Yeah, Vermont is dysfunctional. And right now, several cities are effectively walled off from the rest of the world. Our property, by the way, too, there were some people that messaged, and they were like praying for my family's property in Rutland. We're actually on a hill at Chisana Drive. It's considerably above the surrounding. There's a little stream out back that did flood during Irene and do a lot of damage, but it came nowhere near the property. It would have had to have been like 3 Irenes at once, and this current storm was like 0.6 Irenes or something. So it would take the storm of not a century, but a goddamn 10,000 years in order to flood out the property at Chisana. Although the lower end of the field does have rock formations in it consistent with having had water flow in the last possibly few tens of thousands of years. I like geology. Midwest Mystic, do you believe we went to the moon? Not judging, just curious. Yes, it's self-evident that we did actually go to the moon. Well, I do believe that. By the way, the world is round. It is not flat. Next news story. This is the funny one of the day. This is the big one that I wanted to talk about. Russian spies in Ukraine suspected of duping FBI to censor Americans on social media. I'm going to read that again for you in case you didn't quite get that through your head. Listen very closely. This is what they're going with. When I saw this, I couldn't fucking believe it. Russian spies in Ukraine suspected of duping the FBI to censor Americans on social media. They are actually claiming that Russia caused them to censor what they thought was Russian propaganda. The FBI is that fucking stupid. This is the greatest thing that I've ever fucking read. I'm going to read a little bit of this. Oh, Jesus. The FBI was enlisted by the Security Service of Ukraine soon after the Russian invasion to demand social media platforms take down posts and block accounts such as those belonging to American journalists, according to House Judiciary Committee investigators. It is now suspected that Russian agents had infiltrated the Ukraine intelligence agency, known by the acronym SBU, potentially manipulating the FBI's attempts to censor the journalists and at least one State Department official. The FBI also vouched for removing social media posts that were pro-Ukraine or critical of Russian President Vladimir Putin, according to the report. So, let me get this straight. Russian disinformation campaigns are so terrible that the campaign by the FBI was actually blighted by the influence of Russian disinformation campaigns. So it's multiple layers. It's Russians all the way down. If this is true, well, let's look at if this is false, and I think that it is. We've got the FBI claiming that, we unlawfully censored U.S. citizens at the behest of the Ukrainian Security Service, and that's an entirely separate issue. Why the fuck were you doing that anyway, regardless of the truthfulness of this report? That's what's being lost here. We did it, if it's false, we did it on our own accord, and now we're throwing the Russians under the bus yet again and claiming that they had something to do with it. It's all Russia. If it's true, somehow it's worse. If it's true, then it means the FBI was duped by a bunch of foreign espionage agents, again, despite the fact that they were working with Ukrainian security authorities. So they trusted the Ukrainian Security Service to give them accurate information, not realizing, I suppose, that the Russians were capable of infiltrating it. Can I ask a question, though, that doesn't appear in this article, and I don't see anyone else bringing up this question? Let's say that it's not the case. So Russia had nothing to do with this. It was the Ukrainian Security Service. The tale is false. Why was a U.S. intel agency working with a foreign group, the Ukrainian Security Service? Why was it working with them and effectively taking, if not marching orders, at least suggestions from a foreign group to censor law-abiding U.S. citizens based on a potentially, now they're openly claiming, spurious opinion with regards to what was or was not state disinfo? And why would it matter if it's disinfo? If I echo disinfo from a foreign country, does that mean that I'm engaged in unlawful speech? No. Does it mean that I'm within my First Amendment rights? Yeah, I'm still within my right to express myself. It doesn't matter if I'm wrong. If the litmus test is who is wrong and who is not wrong, who decides who is or is not wrong? The government? Some scientific authority? They're wrong all the time. Look at thalidomide if you don't believe me. So, I mean, it's bullshit. The biggest bullshit here is that the FBI was working with the Security Service of Ukraine. Their cop-out is the funny part of the story, but it's not even the central concern that we should be having. The central concern we should be having is that they were working with a foreign entity in a third world country with a corrupt government to begin with. It's one thing, they can barely even get by making an excuse to working with the Swedes or the British with regards to intel, because that power is misused too. They've been doing the Five Eyes thing for a long time now, you see. If that's bad, and it is, and if it's unconstitutional, which it clearly is, how much worse is it to work with Ukraine, whose tin horn dictator of a leader had been panned by even the mainline legacy media for years before the war broke out? Now all of a sudden, Putin man bad, so automatically Zelensky is a shining archangel or something like that. Well, he's not. He's still corrupt. He's still like any other world leader. He looks out for himself primarily. That's the way that people in power tend to operate. That's why we need libertarianism to temper that power back down and put it back, the genie back into the bottle somewhat so that it's less abusive. But if this is true, we're talking about the FBI being fooled by a bunch of Russian disinfo agents while on the job trying to take care of Russian disinfo. Wow. That really looks good, by the way. And this is their cope. This is the story they would prefer you to believe. The alternative is worse. Somehow the alternative is that they're lying fucking flat out. There was no disinfo campaign, and they just had a bunch of U.S. citizens spied on and censored, which is what actually happened. I don't believe this story at all. Given that the SBU was compromised by a network of Russian collaborators, sympathizers, and double agents at the time of its interactions with the FBI's uncritical cooperation with the SBU's request is deeply concerning, said the report by the panel's select subcommittee on the weaponization of the federal government. No. Concerning? I think that you're making a big understatement there, but I appreciate your candor. The inclusion of American accounts on the SBU's lists indicates that the FBI either did not properly vet the SBU's requests or was aware of their domestic nature and nonetheless carried them out. In doing so, the FBI violated the First Amendment rights of Americans and potentially undermined our national security, the report said. Yeah, again, I mean, that's preaching to the choir, but it's good to hear it again. This apparently went on for quite some time, and you had multiple content creators targeted by this. It never should have happened, number one. It's unconstitutional, number two. And it needs something more than a House committee to look into it. This should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. This is an egregious violation of the fucking First Amendment. And there is not nearly enough outrage, even among people who they fucking hate the FBI, they fucking hate the Biden admin. Even they're not talking about it enough. Where's their outrage? It's just people's anger cools down too quickly. If anything, people aren't hotheads. We're told that the American people are hotheads, so they shouldn't be allowed to have like an AR-15 or something. No. They're too patient. The problem is that they're too willing to deal with bullshit. They're too willing to deal with abuse. That's the whole problem of the American public. Europeans riot when their sports team wins or when their sports team loses. Americans, meanwhile, they go home. There's like an egregious violation of any amendment under the sun. They say, oh, well, I'll make a tweet about it. I find that very funny. We need some more fire in our veins. Eric Nicholas, do you think advanced civilizations would most likely be hominids like us? I'm actually writing a book on the subject. I do believe they'd be bipedal. In general, depending on whether they were on land or aquatic, that will play a role in my analysis. They would have bilateral symmetry. They would have a pronounced cranial region. Beyond that, a lot of it depends on the specific climatic conditions they tend to inhabit and so forth. I think there would be some significant similarities between humans and any aliens we're likely to meet. Sparky, the same Ukrainian SBU, arrested Gonzalo Lira at the behest of the U.S. government, perhaps the FBI. U.S. controls Ukraine SBU, not Russia. Yeah, I mean, the allegation is that the Russians infiltrated it. That's believable, but, you know, apparently the FBI took marching orders in part from this group, and it never should have happened regardless of infiltration. Sparky, free U.S. and Chilean citizens, Gonzalo Lira. Sparky, free Julian Assange. Absolutely agree. DBrown83, how's the soap making going? I do want to learn how to make soap, actually. I'm assuming that that's a pointed comment, but it is actually an interest. I'd like to make it with caraway. Caraway smells just so fucking wholesome and good. And if you don't like caraway, then, well, fuck. And there's no accounting for taste. Dan Malone, 53. Corruption, the malignant tumor that just keeps on giving. Riona Sarah, bipedal, so they'd be bi like me. No, it means walking on 2 feet. I think you know that. I posit that in order to use the frontal digits most effectively, a species preferably is bipedal. It saves energy when moving long distances as well, as opposed to the sort of loping gait of a hominid that tends to use 4 limbs. It saves energy. It also helps with seeing what's happening around you, but it depends on the climate of the planet. If the planet is more or less mountainous, more or less aquatic, an aquatic species, I think, might as well just have radial symmetry. It might be like an octopus. You might literally have a world out there that looks like a goddamn H.P. Lovecraft world. We're never going to see it ourselves, but it is a distinct possibility that some world out there has an aquatic species with an advanced intellect and has multiple radial digits that are capable of manipulating its surroundings and has developed advanced technology. It is entirely possible. I think there's all sorts of life out there. Probably thousands of sentient alien species in this galaxy alone. I would say some thousands, possibly tens of thousands. That would be probably an underestimate. Opinionated Junkie. I am tired of Congress grilling that result in zero. The Patriot Cairo. Russia and Ukrainian soldiers high-five each other with matching American tanks while laughing at how weak and corrupt the U.S. is under this admin freak show. Yeah, true. Yeah, they're all getting paid, so who gives a shit? Next news story, we've got Christie devolving into Yo Little Donnie posting. Do you remember Ron Perlman? You know, he played Hellboy or whatever it was, and a caveman, actually. He's the dude that looks like a literal Neanderthal, and the one that said that he pissed on his hand before shaking hands with Weinstein, and this became a big meme where people would say, like, you know, Yo, little Donnie, I'm eating my shit. I bet you can't even stomach your own shit, Donnie, lol, or something like that, to that effect. It's one where he drinks paint thinner. He's like, yeah, Haas, I don't feel so well. I'm all yellow, but at least I'm not an orange Cheeto turd like you, and stuff like that. Well, unfortunately, Ron Perlman decided to flee Twitter. He decided to go to Threads, where it's an echo chamber. Even Odd says within a month he'll be back to Twitter, but we'll see what happens. Now, Christie has decided to Donnie post. I shit you not. Donald Trump, the king of keyboard warriors. Donnie, you got so much to say. Why don't you say it directly to my face on the debate stage? Or are you a coward? Donald doesn't give a shit what you say, Chris. You're under 3 points. You've qualified for the debate stage. Congratulations. I'm sure that you'll have fun using Ron DeSantis as a punching bag. Oh, wait. You're more likely to stand up on stage and just rant about Trump when he's not even there. Well, who cares? The reason why Trump's not really responding to you is he doesn't give a fucking shit. Nobody does. Christie, by the way, actually retired from his gubernatorial position with a 20-year record low for gubernatorial approval in any state in the United States. Yeah, he's a viable contender. There are a handful of people who were like Team DeSantis, and now they're like Team Christie. Like, wow, this man can do it. Are you goddamn nuts? What kind of drugs are you on? Because seriously, keep him away from me because I'd have a psychotic breakdown. Ron DeSantis, at the very least, is capable of getting to 20 points in an aggregate. Christie can't even hit 3. What are you talking about? Christie is, I mean, he's devolving, and I like to see it. I'm glad that he's having a breakdown. He realizes that he's not viable. And his only way forward really is to be I'm the true anti-Trump candidate. I'm the only one who tells it as it is. I'm the tough guy. But nobody thinks you're tough. You weigh like twice as much as Taft did. Nobody considers you to be a threat, particularly politically or physically. You're not an imposing character. You're a decent debater. And it'll be funny when you're on a debate stage making Marco Rubios out of maybe Nikki Haley or somebody like that, or Asa Hutchinson. That'll be amusing. Now, that's wonderful. Good on you. But you're probably not going to get the chance to debate Trump. At the mainline debates, after all the informal ones, you'll probably have dropped out of the fucking race. So I don't even know what he's angling for. But I do appreciate him going completely nuts. I appreciate him making a constant fool of himself because it gives me something to talk about, and it's fucking amusing. Alex, how do you think the aftermath of Ukraine and Russia will be? I think it'll be a stalemate war for a very, very long time. Unless somebody launches a nuke or something like that, I don't see the situation changing much. Let's see. We've got Citizen Zero. What if the aliens are gun grabbers? Do we annihilate them? Well, I don't think you'd be able to if they're capable of crossing interstellar space. They probably have the capability of overrunning us. Although I would point out that it takes a hell of a lot of effort to rig up an armada capable of overrunning a whole planet. So we have that in our favor. They might try to colonize us Chris Columbus style, in which case we should do what the so-called natives should have done in the first place and just fire arrows into everyone and then burn the ship into the ocean. Midwest Finest 95. You seen Ice Cube going at leftists on Twitter? Very entertaining stuff. Ice Cube likes attention. He seems to have a problem with everyone. Wasted Bonehead. Sticks. Thoughts on Prism and the idea of silicon-based life? I think there is probably silicon-based life out there. It probably exists. We don't know what form that would take. We can't trace its evolutionary paths because it's a different kind of life form. But yeah, it could very possibly exist. John Hoyle, do you see leftist causes, child sex surgery, etc., becoming the norm in the future and accepted, or will traditional values prevail? It'll be a hodgepodge, a mix and match. By the way, I think there's a little bit of thunder out there. Johnny Azul, apologies if you've addressed this previously, but what are your thoughts on Cornel West's campaign on the 2024 election? It's amusing, but he's doomed. He has no chance whatsoever. He's running for the Green Party. Sparky, making soap is a cool project. I've made it from scratch. Good way to get rid of leftover bacon grease and vegetable oil, but any fat will do. Yeah, you simply reduce it down with lye, I think it is. Toxic mix. Maybe the advanced mollusk alien life forms already came here and replaced Trump and Biden with skin suits. Oh, well, it's a two-party system. Next news story. Link in the description. You can see it for yourself. Glossing it over really briefly, there's a new Maybelline ad, and it has a, I don't know, drag queen or cross-dresser. I'm not exactly sure. I don't know who the fuck this dude is. Some bald dude with a big beard and a little mustache, which looks terrible. You should, if you're going to have a big beard, you should conjoin the mustache to it. Even if you have a little beard like this, it just looks better. And I was thinking to myself, this is pretty funny. And, the dude's just putting on his makeup. And some people are outraged by this. I mean, they're trending on Twitter. I'm not outraged by things like this. I look at these companies continuously doing things like this. And Maybelline signed with Dylan Mulvaney not long ago, too. So, have fun. And they keep getting smacked down. They keep losing money. They keep having problems as the result of doing this. But for some reason, they continue to do it. And I'm thinking to myself, again, do you learn from your mistakes? Are the people running your companies really that fucking stupid that they think that people are interested in seeing this kind of ad? Yes, there's a niche audience that likes it. And there's a proportion of people that don't have a problem with it. I'm one of them. I don't use Maybelline products, as you can probably tell. And so it doesn't, I can't boycott them because I'm not using it. It's similar to Bud Light. I can't boycott Bud Light. I can't boycott Ben & Jerry's. Hell, I can't boycott goddamn anything. I fucking hate materialism. Other than buying food and shit, like I go out of my way to avoid shopping. I want to stay at home. I don't want to go out to the store unless it's to buy food and then make a good meal. So I can't boycott things. I use Head & Shoulders shampoo. If they go woke, I guess I can switch to some other brand if I want to, but it's like, the amount that I use, it's not going to make a big difference. But why do you fucking keep doing this and self-owning? It's almost like these multi-billion-dollar corporations have gotten so ESG friendly at this point that they've lost track of the plot. They don't seem to understand that there's a differential between, to use the liberal colloquial usage, Wall Street and Main Street. Have you ever heard that one? Wall Street's not Main Street. The fact that the stocks are up doesn't mean that people aren't hurting. Well, you're technically correct. I'm not saying that you're wrong. Likewise, there's a difference between the corporate boardroom, corporate America, the bureaucrats and stuff, and the average American or the average citizen anywhere else in the world. There's a big disconnect between the two. They seem not to understand this. And so now Maybelline can lose billions of dollars because they're putting lipstick on the bald again. I don't know if he's a cross-dresser or transgendered or whatever the fuck, or just gay. I don't really care because I can't use their products because not interested in them. I just found this hilarious, and it's trending on Twitter for a reason. People are talking about it. I don't even know that it's worth bothering. Okay, it's a cosmetic company. All right. Toxic mix. Maybe the advanced mollusk. Oh, I already did that one. Derp. Styx's parents. We're unfloodable, bitches. Opinionated junkie. If celebs go after leftists, don't get hyped. They're likely to walk back statements. It's happened before. Sons get excited. Absolutely. Many such cases. Yeah, a lot of people are talking about lipstick on a pig. No, he's just some bald, I don't know. Again, I don't know. I don't even know who the fuck this is. It's just a Maybelline partner ad. Many such cases. They seem to enjoy the concept of losing money, which means they'll get more investment from your taxpayer money anyway. Next news story, just quickly, the legacy media, I'm not even going to bother reading the article. The legacy media, have you noticed over the past 72 hours, especially on the new inflation news, has been astroturfing the idea that the Biden admin is a success? Well, he's a bipartisan president. That's what this ad alludes to. He's reduced inflation. The Inflation Reduction Act worked. He's making progress in Ukraine. Well, not really, but, you can claim so, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Biden, the uniparty, the non-divisive president. Joe Biden, the one that doesn't make mean tweets. Joe Biden, well, his old age, this was an article a couple of days ago, his old age is actually his strength. That's his best point is he's got so much experience. Dude, they're totally circling wagons right now. Meanwhile, there are a couple of articles saying, well, is the corporate media losing faith in Joe Biden? No, not apparently, based on what I see. I still see them circling wagons. Joe Biden is the unifier. Joe Biden is the inflation destroyer. Joe Biden brought gas prices down. Literally every metric that you can possibly think of is worse now than when Joe Biden took the presidency. It's just less bad than it was a year ago. That's their selling point. This is the economic selling point of Bidenomics, of the Biden administration. Things are less bad than they could be. Things could be worse. That's basically his slogan for 2024. This is another reason why I think Donald Trump could feasibly win, even though we have issues with the honkening. We still have issues with Dominion and so forth. We're allowed to talk about those on YouTube, by the way, now. Sparky, Ukraine's war hardly a stalemate. Russia's been steadily grinding up Ukraine military, including Nazis, since the invasion. Why hurry? World's going Russia's way because of Victoria Nuland et al. I disagree. I think that at the moment it is effectively a stalemate because I see no evidence to the contrary. I see a lot of hype and hyperbole from NATO reporting and Russian reporting. I see nothing from any neutral reporting that tilts me in one direction or the other. I just think that it's regrettable the war even exists. Alex, do you agree we're doomed for World War III? In due time, yes. Not necessarily in the near future. Could happen 100 years from now. Sticky Marks, hope you got my super chat. YouTube doesn't like me. Yeah, YouTube doesn't like me either. That's why they algorithmically throttle me. That's why that I'm happy that right now 2,000 people are watching live on Rumble. Hello to everyone on Rumble, by the way. By the way, Lemon Curd Zero asking what's for dinner. I believe I'm making stuffed shells. So that's with ricotta and Parmesan and spinach, of course. My homemade special sauce, extra tomatoey. I dump so much basil in it that, it basically turns green. That's the way to do it. It's going to be fucking amazing. And the final news story. Everything I hate is on Twitter. How can the alternatives compete, says Zoe Williams. Leftoid. When Elon Musk took over the platform, the downward slide was depressing. But then the horror may always have been a big part of its appeal. Oh my God, I'm so outraged. Man, I love being outraged. This is why Twitter in the end, if assuming it holds the course, will win. People like to be outraged. They do not like echo chambers. On the surface, they pretend to like them. They like to suppress others, but once those others are suppressed, they get fucking bored. It's like with, I'll give an anecdote. I crushed ICQ chats online. It's browser-based chatting rooms years and years ago. And I had fun doing it. It was really, really fun to grind them down with troll raids and spam and bots and fucking around with their own bots. They had like a Wikipedia bot. And because of the censorship on site, right? I could get them to ban their own bot that would read out Wikipedia blurbs by simply using the right articles because Hitler was a banned word. And so if you had any article that listed him in the first few sentences, you could have it read out that article a few times and it would get banned. I had so much fun fucking doing this on both listed and unlisted rooms. But then the mods got sacked first. Spam was everywhere. They locked it back down, but then the site went down completely. And afterwards, I was like, oh, and that was so great. I fucking won. Ah, shit. Well, now I can't fight these people anymore. This is a human mentality. We like struggle. It's part of our evolutionary drive. If you don't have any physical struggle, then you end up with struggles online and shit like that. I would point out, as far as the alternatives go, none of them can compete. Threads is not going to be able to viably compete with Twitter. It's an echo chamber that's largely populated by people who already use Instagram. Zuckerberg has simply decided to attack Twitter by mobilizing Instagram using a workaround. That's basically what this boils down to. Gab can compete. It's the only one that has a reasonable, viable, competitive network and framework because it's crowdfunded. It came much more early, and its entire business model is let Twitter kick people off, and hopefully they find us. They're the only ones that are solvent. Is there any other alternative? Parler. Where's Parler today? Yeah, they really competed very well. What about Tribble? What about Mastodork? Nobody gives a shit about these platforms. The only one of any note is Gab. Meta doesn't, Meta's Threads doesn't matter because it's just a bootstrap on top of Instagram. The majority of the users were already using a Meta product anyway. They're just using a different one part of the time now. Well, that doesn't boil down to a high engagement value now, does it? Twitter, meanwhile, is a fortress. So Twitter is where it's at. I'm going to keep using it. Almost 140,000 people following me on Twitter. By the way, link in the description. You can follow me too. If you want some really spicy takes, some people have told me that Twitter Sticks is the best sticks because I say off-the-wall shit constantly. BW, companies don't care about losing money because they're following Black R CEO, we're screwed. I would disagree. I think they do need money. Dan Malone, 53. Agent Smith, head of Legacy Media. Oliver Darcy, head of Legacy Media. By the way, please send no more super chats. I'm going to wrap up here in a minute. We're at 50 minutes here. And again, stuffed shells are calling me. And somebody, I can smell it. Somebody I think is cooking with garlic right now, like maybe garlic bread somewhere in the neighborhood. And it smells awfully fucking good. It's making my tummy rumble. Yeah, Tommy Robinson, Getter is functional, but it's not a competitor to Twitter now, is it? It's like, what? 0.5% of the size or something like that. I use it, I use it as a notification machine, the same as I tend to use several other sites. Even with Gab, sometimes I make independent posting on there. Mostly it's ship posting because it's funny, because it is more moralistic, but at least Gab is solvent. At least they've got their shit in order. Gab is the only one that ever did. Everyone else, if they exist at all, has fallen by the wayside. This is the case also against YouTube and its strangulation of vlogging. We had VidMe and a bunch of other sites. They fell by the wayside. Nobody uses Vimeo. Nobody uses Veo. Nobody uses Dailymotion killed itself. It was kind of sort of viable for a while. I'm technically one of the largest users on the platform, and I don't even post anymore because they introduced mandatory non-ad blocking on their site. So they did effectively what YouTube is thinking of doing now. Don't do it, YouTube, if you want your competitors not to quadruple in size. But then for every failure, you've got like BitChute. BitChute is fine. BitChute is solvent. You've got Rumble. Rumble has taken off as well. Odyssey, I don't know because the SEC just crippled a library as far as their SEC ruling against their coins. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen with them. Vimeo, Veo. Metacafe, yeah. Remember Google Video back before it gobbled up YouTube? I do. Pepperidge Farm remembers. I'm just old enough for that shit. That was fine back in 2006 or thereabouts. Miku Huntu Forex Spot. I use Mastodon. Normies are kept out as should be. Well, a lot of people that are using Mastodon seem to have some mental issues. It's certainly not on the same order of magnitude as Twitter. Hell, it's not even on the same magnitude as Meta's Threads, and that's basically a giant astroturf. So yeah, I'm going to go offline here. I'm happy for all of the people that watched live. Almost 5,000 people at peak, and I thank you for your contributions. I'll be back tomorrow with more news. At least I think so, because we've got several scheduled appointments tomorrow. I'll get to the morning videos. I'll do my other work. There's a good chance I'll stream, but it's not 100% certain. I will certainly try to get to it. We'll see what happens. If not, I'll probably make an extra couple of shorts out in the cuck shed or something like that. So don't worry. I'll make extra content if I can't do a live stream. It's just, if the baby happens to be here when my live stream normally occurs, I need a quiet place to make my content. I can't live stream if the baby's in the house because it's just fucking impossible for me to focus. That's about all. Oh, by the way, actually, before I go offline, keep in mind at the top of chat, if you're on YouTube, it's pinned there, cross-platform in the description. You can buy books that I have edited or authored at the Tarl Warwick's Books blog at blogspot.com. There's also a WordPress. You can take that link. I've got you covered. Hundreds and hundreds of different editions. I do notice that there's always an improvement on sales when I mention this, so I figured I should probably do so. I don't want to lose that extra $20 because, you know, diapers are expensive. Plenty of shit that's available there. If you're into anything regarding the paranormal or anthropology, fucking history of religion, Masons, the Freemasons, Rosicrucians, yeah, it's basically all there. I scattershotted the entirety of the occult over the course of 400 editions, and I've got 15 more that are currently coming down the line, so don't worry, much more to come. That's about all. Peace out.